Live from ABC7, this is Eyewitness News.
I mean, it's a government scandal. Well, I think at this point it's definitely, they're in cover-up mode.
Sheriff's deputies refusing to testify. The DA's office thrown off a notorious mass murder case. It's a snitch scandal that's rocking the criminal justice system in Orange County. Good evening, I'm Mark Brown.
I'm Michelle Tuzzi. Questions surrounding a practice that's aimed at putting offenders behind bars have led to some violent criminals going free.
Allegations of prosecutors and sheriff's deputies working together to use a secret network of jailhouse informants to break the rules. And it was all unearthed by one of Orange County's most notorious murder cases.
Hey, we've had some shootings over here in Seal Beach.
October 12th, 2011. Scott DeCry storms a Seal Beach hair salon. One by one, DeCry methodically kills his ex-wife and 7 others.
A gunman came in and killed a bunch of people.
I am haunted by her last minutes about her being afraid.
Beth Webb's sister Laura desperately tried to hide from the gunman in a back room.
They heard my sister say, you don't have to do this. Please don't shoot me. And then they heard a lot of shots.
Paul Wilson lost his wife of 26 years.
It's the hardest thing I've ever had to do is tell my kids.
DeCry confessed to police the same day. He later confessed again to a jailhouse informant and ultimately pled guilty. But it's that jailhouse confession that sparked what's become known as Orange County's snitch scandal. DeCry's public defender, Scott Sanders, wants to spare DeCry from the death penalty. Sanders dug deep into the history of Orange County law enforcement and the murky world of jailhouse informants.
Yeah, confess. They didn't need to put that informant in that cell next to him.
Sanders thought it too much of a coincidence that one jailhouse informant had collected confessions from his 2 very high-profile defendants, DeCry and Daniel Wozniak, an actor accused of a grisly double murder which included a beheading. The jailhouse informant at issue with DeCry is Fernando Perez, a former leader in the Mexican Mafia and a third striker facing possible life in prison. He turned informant while behind bars in 2010 and quickly wrapped up confession after confession from a series of suspects, all of whom wound up in a cell next to Perez. It's perfectly legal to use jailhouse informants, but it is illegal to deliberately deploy informants to coax incriminating statements from a defendant who's already been charged and has the constitutional right to an attorney. And when prosecutors fail to turn over evidence about informants to defense attorneys, that violates basic legal principles.
There's no evidence of a conspiracy. There's no evidence of intentional violations.
Orange County District Attorney Tony Rakakis does admit his office made a handful of mistakes in DeCry and other cases by not turning over evidence. But he says those are a drop in the bucket among the 20,000 felony cases his office handles every year. He says the identities of snitches need to be protected for the informant's own safety and insists some cases would never be cracked without the use of snitches.
That's why it's so often said that if there's an evil plot hatched in hell, you're not going to have angels for witnesses.
But the fallout from Sanders' investigation is staggering. A judge kicked the entire Orange County District Attorney's Office off of the DeCry case for misconduct, holding the DA accountable after the judge found sheriff's deputies either lied or willfully withheld material evidence from the court. Much of that withheld evidence comes from a trove of jailhouse records known as TRED, which the judge said remained secret.
There's no secret about it. Certainly the district attorney's office has known about it for years.
But Rakakis says that's not true, that his office had only seen TRED records in one case before the DeCry investigation brought them to light.
The truth of the matter is we have not been privy to those records.
Is the sheriff mistaken about letting your folks know?
I mean, I wasn't there for your conversation with the sheriff.
TRED records can show who moved an inmate and why. For instance, was an informant deliberately placed next to a suspect to elicit incriminating information? On the witness stand, 2 special handling sheriff's deputies denied the jail has an informant program, refused to even acknowledge the existence of TRED, and insisted that as special handling deputies they did not control the movements of DeCry or Perez. But the TREDs for DeCry suggest a different story. All movement will be approved by IRC special handling. Sheriff Hutchins does not believe the deputies intended to mislead the judge. Those deputies, plus 2 more, are now refusing to testify and pled the 5th at a hearing in a related case this month.
It's information in the jail world that they want to keep secret to protect the security of the facility to protect the inmates, and I really think he was unsure about what he could or couldn't say at that point.
The Sheriff's Department has stepped up training and put in place new policies on the use of informants. Alexandra Natapov is an expert on the use of informants and says the Decry investigation raises serious concerns about whether law enforcement has been playing by the rules with scores of other defendants.
It's a terrible blow to the integrity of the criminal justice system itself. When you have judges recusing entire district attorneys' offices, when you have an entire public looking at a district attorney's office and a sheriff's department and realizing they lied under oath, they hid records for decades, they disobeyed the Constitution.
Informant Perez, who admits he lied on the witness stand at his own trial, once delivered 2 confessions in one day as the attempted murder and murder suspects were rotated into and out of the jail cell next to him. A coincidence, the Sheriff's Department says, in a jail that holds 5,000 inmates.
How random could it be if it just seems like time and time again they're right next to somebody?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Handwritten notes, many defense attorneys say, were hidden from them for years, suggest that informants like Perez were actively engaged in building cases. Perez titles his notes Operation Daylight, a nod to his admitted hope that his hard work behind bars will earn him a get-out-of-jail-free card, even without an explicit promise from the DA.
It's the worst-kept secret in the criminal world. Everyone in the criminal justice system knows that a deal will be forthcoming if an inmate provides information.
But the deals aren't just for informants. Prosecutors have dropped or pled down cases against confessed killers like Isaac Palacios and Leonel Vega and attempted killer Brian Islas. 2 other convicted killers are pushing for new trials, all based on informant problems unearthed by the Decry investigation. Erwin Chemerinsky, dean of the UC Irvine Law School, is calling on the U.S. Department of Justice to investigate.
This is an enormous deal. How many people's constitutional rights were violated? How many people were convicted in an unconstitutional manner? We don't have the answers to those questions, and we must.
The criminal system is not just for the Scott Decrys of this world. It is for all of us.
In a strange turn of events, some family members of Decry's victims now find themselves more aligned with Decry's public defender. They want the DA to take the death penalty off the table to bring some closure to 4 years of courtroom hell.
Why are we doing this? He's admitted he's guilty. Why are we going to court for another 4 years?
But I don't want to be like him. So I don't wish for his death.
The Orange County District Attorney's Office has created what it calls an independent committee to investigate the informant scandal. The State Attorney General's office is conducting a criminal investigation as well. Tonight at 11 o'clock, we'll have much more on this. You will hear from a young woman directly affected by the informant scandal who watched her brother's killer go free. Did Orange County law enforcement agencies conspire to break the law? That's the allegation at the root of a scandal that's seen violent criminals set free. Tonight, Eyewitness News investigates the murky system of jailhouse informants, including one who asked for outrageous favors in exchange for his work as a snitch.
Putting my life on the line, my life in jeopardy, my family's life in jeopardy.
That's Oscar Moriel, a prolific jailhouse informant, talking to Santa Ana police detectives in February of 2009.
So you're looking for some consideration on the case you're here for in exchange for information on 2 unsolved murders in Santa Ana?
Pretty much.
Moriel, a third strike gang member facing possible life in prison for attempted murder, tells detectives he's willing to snitch on his fellow inmates to help them solve 2 cold case murders. But
we're going to have to meet halfway here.
What that
means is I might be able to help you out if my memory can fall back in place.
You're going to get consideration for the level that you perform.
Great. Okay.
Nearly 9 years after his arrest, Moriel still hasn't had a trial on his own charges. But he's been busy gathering jailhouse confessions or information in a string of cases. On the face of it, using jailhouse informants is legal, but those informants must not question charged suspects on behalf of police officers. And any evidence that a jailhouse informant gathers must be turned over to defense attorneys. These once secret jailhouse recordings should have been disclosed in every case Moriel had a hand in, but they were not.
Do you think it's possible, after all this is done, if you guys can expunge my record and I can go into the military.
You want to go legally kill some people, huh?
Yeah, I want to go fight. If that's possible, I want to go.
Yeah, it's much nicer when it's Uncle's hands behind you on it.
The secret recordings and hundreds of pages of handwritten notes from Moriel surfaced only after a years-long investigation by the public defender for confessed mass murderer Scott DeCry, where another prolific informant was used to get a confession. Scott Sanders uncovered what he alleges is a decades-long conspiracy among Orange County law enforcement to elicit illegal jailhouse confessions and hide evidence, including once secret jailhouse records known as TRED. Orange County District Attorney Tony Rakakis admits to some isolated, unintentional mistakes and says even his office didn't know about the TRED records except in one case. Rakakis says his prosecutors will still use informants, but they must be approved by a committee.
Gang violence is pretty tough to get information about and tough to solve without informants.
The damage may already be done. As the DeCry investigation unfolded, a judge kicked the entire DA's office off the DeCry case for misconduct and accused 2 Orange County Sheriff's special handling deputies of lying on the witness stand. Other convicted killers are now asking for new trials based on questions raised in DeCry about jailhouse informants and withheld evidence.
Are bad people going to get out of prison or jail because of this?
Because of the use of informants? No. No.
Critics say that's not true. Isaac Palacios walked out of jail a free man last fall on a plea deal. Prosecutors dropped one murder charge entirely and let him walk on another murder with credit for time served. He spent 3.5 years in prison after admitting he shot and killed rival gang member Randy Adame. The key informant in the Adame case, Oscar Moriel.
This only tells people that you could commit a crime and you could get away with it.
Randy Adame's sister Jackie was in court and watched in disbelief as Palacios got his deal.
He turned around and smiled. And like he didn't care. I just knew that he was going to plead guilty and he was going to walk out because they didn't have evidence. That's all they told me. But later I found out that it was because of the informants.
In a strange and cruel twist of fate, Jackie's father, Emeterio Adame, was also shot and killed 6 weeks after her brother's death. The gunman apparently targeting Adame's neighbor.
My father was 54 years old. That was taken away from us.
This month, Jackie addressed the court at a hearing for the convicted killer of her father, Eric Ortiz.
He was already found guilty.
Ortiz was found guilty in 2014, but now he's pushing for a new trial based on the alleged misuse of yet another jailhouse informant.
I wish and I pray that I get justice, but I doubt it's going to happen.
Jackie will be back in court next week as the judge hears final arguments about whether Eric Ortiz should get a new trial for the murder of Jackie's father. The judge could rule within weeks. Wow.